We have the Borderlands Restoration Network joining us today. And Francesca, you should be able to share your screen. And whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and pitch. And then afterwards, we'll have you introduce your team and answer questions.
That sounds great. Thank you. Let's see.
Oops.
Hello, my name is Francesca Claveri, and I'm the Native Plant Program Manager for Borderlands Restoration Network in Patagonia, Arizona. Lei Ibarra from the Colectivo Sonora Silvestre in Hermosillo, Sonora, and I will be presenting our finalist proposal, Vacanora for Bats by National Conservation and Sustainable Agave Spirits. Our project aims to conserve agaves in the US-Mexico borderlands and implement a sustainability certification for Vacanora, a regional mezcal distillate based on enhancing agave connectivity for nectar-feeding bats. At Borderlands Restoration Network, we partner to grow a restorative economy by rebuilding healthy ecosystems, restoring habitat for plants and wildlife, and reconnecting our border communities to the land through shared learning. One of our most important partnerships is the Colectivo Sonora Silvestre, a group of former students from the University of Sonora dedicated to conservation in the state. Our bilingual agave team started working with Bat Conservation International and the Colectivo Sonora Silvestre back in 2017, giving presentations at binational Agave for Bats workshops. Together, we have grown and planted thousands of regionally adapted agave seedlings on both sides of the border. We have developed numerous binational collaborations with groups in our shared home ecosystems and garnered the support from amazing experts in the field, from botany to bat science and Vacanora production.
Nectar-feeding bats rely on wild agave plants for food as they migrate through the binational Arizona and Sonora borderlands, and in turn serve as their primary pollinators. Communities in Sonora have always relied on agave plants for spirits, food, and fiber. Agaves only flower once in their lifetime. In order to capture the sugars agaves store in their bases for their single flowering event, producers must harvest the agave before they flower and produce seeds. Agaves are disappearing, with increased production of the regional agave distillate Vacanora. And as land is cleared for cultivation of Vacanora and wild agaves are harvested to supplement the cultivated crops for distillation, a gap is formed, breaking connectivity in the nectar landscape for important pollinators, including the threatened migratory nectar-feeding bat species. The Vacanora industry is relatively new, due to a government ban that lasted a little bit over 70 years, and it's still in its early stages of regulation. These are small, family-owned Vacanora producers, and it's sustainable. With growing demand for mezcal and tequila, we want to make sure that the increased production pressures on Vacanora is mitigated in a just and thoughtful way, including women's inclusion into the historically Vacanora industry. Due to a lack of asked by the Consejo Sonorense Regulador del Vacanora to come up with a certification for the entire denomination of origin that will make their product more sustainable. While working closely with Vacanora ranchers in the state of Sonora, we have become aware of the challenges the industry faces, the impact that the disappearance of wild agaves has on the ecosystem. We have the unique opportunity to create a dialogue between producers and entities such as the Vacanora Regulatory Council, in order to create a plan that aligns production practices with sustainability policy. To address threats to bats and agave, including the sustainability of Vacanora production, policy changes need to incentivize practices that prevent further ecological degradation, restore nectar landscape connectivity, while celebrating regional heritages and restorative economies. Borderlands Restoration Network and the Colectivo Sonora Silvestre will strengthen community-based restoration of Vacanora agave through policy change.
We offer a collaborative solution for rural borderlands communities that depends on habitat connectivity by unifying producers, consumers, policymakers, and scientists in a common cause that can improve quality of life for bat, agave, and human communities alike. Surveys and modeling will generate missing baseline data on agave populations in the region needed to identify critical disruptions in the connectivity of the nectar landscape. Our project will use this research to inform restoration efforts and sustainable Vacanora requirements, such as how many agave plants to let flower per acre, through a collaborative process of stakeholder meetings discussing bat nectar needs and agave harvesting requirements. We will design and implement a sustainability certification, changing how Vacanora is produced, impacting bats, small-scale producers, and local communities immediately, while providing a model for sustainability regulation, which can be adjusted and implemented in other regions of agave spirit production. This project conserves agave populations and ensures flowering for nectar-feeding bats, supporting the migration through the binational Madrean archipelago ecoregion. It also enables ranchers to secure their livelihoods by conserving the resource on which they depend and marketing a sustainable product. We will survey wild agave populations on both sides of the border and will host binational stakeholder meetings through existing partnerships with regional agave festivals in Arizona and Sonora. Through our strong partnerships, we will evaluate connectivity of wild agave populations and impacts to pollinators on both sides of the border, supporting the creation of a cooperative, science-based sustainability certification for Vacanora, ushering in the next generation of leaders in conservation. This certification is unique in that it is not a standalone policy being implemented by our environmental conservation nonprofits, but was requested by the Vacanora Regulatory Council and will be administered and regulated through the denomination of origin with the Consejo. Becoming involved with a small industry that has a large impact is crucial work to implement in an industry's beginning stages, and we are thankful for the support the Vacanora Regulatory Council has shown us. Border issues are usually highlighted through a lens of walls, division, strife, and violence. We offer an alternative, restorative narrative that celebrates the cultural and ecological heritage of the certify Vacanora and protect its supporting ecological systems is now. Thank you for your consideration, and we are looking forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca, Leah, and team. Let's show some appreciation for them. Well done. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Francesca, would you like to introduce the rest of your team that will be taking part?
Yes, definitely. I'm here with Perrin McNeilis in Patagonia, and we also have Leigh Ibarra and Valeria Cañedo in Hermosillo right now. And we also have Erin Riordan in Tucson, who's with us on this call. And together, we should be able to answer any questions you have.
Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And with that, I pass it over to the judges. What questions do we have for this team?
I'll start. This is Sharon. That's a very inspiring presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
What I really enjoyed about your approach is you're looking at the ecological, the economic, the social dimensions as a very integrated approach. And I'm wondering, as you see the implementation of this, where do you feel you're going to have to place the most energy? You know, if you were to, because you're looking at social change and social impact and connectivity. And I would imagine, you know, that's a lot to hold. So I'm curious, just from your perspective, where do you find that you have the greatest amount of energy you have to place to have the greatest impact, to move those different dimensions forward?
For us, the incredible opportunity we have here with the Connectivity Challenge is to really fund on-the-ground policy change that otherwise is really hard to get done through our work. There's a lot of different really amazing ecological nonprofits here in the borderlands on both sides of the border. And most of our work is really done with on-the-ground monitoring or plantings or waterway work. So for us, this has been a project that we've been working on for a while. The Colectivo has put an incredible amount of work into networking and getting buy-in from their communities. And for us, the focus is this policy change. Leah and Valeria, do you want to add anything to that for Sonora?
Well, I think that for us, it's just putting energy in every aspect of the project, because we do think that in order to make a real impact, we do have to address every aspect that we can think of to actually make it happen. I also think, yeah, we do work a lot for producers and with producers, but we also work a lot for the environment. Of course, we are biologists, we're conservation biologists. And yeah, and also for economy and for cultural heritage, sorry, which we think is so important for the environment and yeah, and for local economy.
Wonderful. Another question from one of the judges.
I have one.
Go ahead, Francisco.
It's Francisco. Felicidades. Congratulations. Great project. My question is, I saw a lot of young people in some of the pictures during your presentation, and I'm wondering how are they involved and what aspects of the project, and kind of a second question will be, you know, the producers, do you see, you know, young generations as producers too?
Yes, it's a very good. Yes, that's a very good question. How do the young people get involved in the project? We do a lot of outreach, and we try to encourage young biologists and young ecologists into developing projects, like similar projects that has a sustainable approach. So basically, that's what we do with younger people, just get them involved and do outreach to encourage that. And the second question, yes, that's a very interesting part, because right now we're in a time that Vacanora producers are now giving their like industry or their brand to their children. So now we're looking at a new generation that it's managing and it's learning to manage the industry, which is really cool, because we get to talk to them in a different way than we would with someone that's older, that has been doing this for years the same way. And they have such new ideas, and they are so excited to work with us. We have already been talking to some of them. So yeah, it's very exciting that generation is changing now. So that's exactly why we think that right now it's the perfect time to get in and to like involved and evolve, right, the new generation of Bacanora producers and environmental and scientists.
I also want to follow it up really quickly by giving a huge shout out to the Colectivo Sonora Silvestre. This is a group of originally students that we started working with years ago, and at Borderlands Restoration Network, they're our pride and joy in terms of being able to really support brilliant scientists and connectors in Sonora, where they're now at the point where for this project, we're the fiscal sponsor, we'll be coordinating a lot of the efforts. But as of even very recently, the Colectivo is now becoming its own nonprofit in Mexico. And these are just exactly the kinds of partnerships we want to keep going. And so, yeah, and we're really proud of them.
Wonderful. Chandni, do you have a question?
Yes, do you still hear feedback from my mic?
No, it sounds great.
Okay, great. So thank you for that amazing presentation. I guess I have a double-pronged question, which is one, that a key piece of success for a sustainability certification is building the trust that you need to get buy-in from the local producers, who it sounds like are the ranchers in this region. So I'm just curious to hear your thinking about how building that trust is going to form part of your process. And then a side question is, have you thought about using technology like some drone technology potentially to help you map the location of these agaves?
I think the colectivo will be best to answer the producer buy-in. The really cool thing about this certification is that it does go through the Consejo Regulador, which is already an entity, so we really have that going for us. And then Leia and Valeria, after you kind of talk about producer buy-in, I'd love if Erin Riordan could talk about some of the mapping work that we're doing, because we also work with Erin on a lot of our other plant mapping needs. Leia, do you guys want to answer that one?
Sure. Yeah, well, we have been working with Vacanora producers for several years now, and we get involved in everything that we can, everything. Even if it doesn't concern us, we just go there, and we try to have like a very personal relationship with each of them. We visit their ranchers. Yeah, we try their Vacanoras. We talk a little bit. We know their families. So these are like very
intimate.
Yeah, intimate relationships, because this is what people here in Sonora in La Sierra are used to. Like if you go to La Sierra, they're going to be like, do you want a cup of coffee and sit with me and talk to me? So just taking the time to really get to know each of them, like very personally, and to get to know what they are thinking or what they want or what the needs are. I think that's like a crucial part. And we have been doing that for years right now. So we did got like the pleasure to meet a lot of them and to get to know really well the Consejo Regulador as well, which was very useful. And we have their total support for doing our projects. And so, yeah, I think that's the answer.
I just want to add something. It is really, really like cool to be a small girl working with like producers that are like usually old, and they're like, they know who we are because we are the pink hair ladies, and they know. So it is amazing to see like how they recognize us and how they know like, oh, this is for bats. Okay, we should call Colectivo. So that's amazing too.
Wonderful. I think we have time for one more question from one of the judges.
Erin.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Erin, and I can address some of the mapping questions. I think that's a really great suggestion for the drone technology. One of the things that we know, especially from talking with producers, is that there's a lot of impact of the wild harvest, but there's not a lot of baseline data. So our project is really going to be trying to get out there and really do these steps of looking at where the breaks in the connectivity are, doing some modeling that can start overlaying spatially what some of these multiple compounding stressors may be from the wild harvest, but also just, direct land loss, habitat loss from development, grazing. We have invasive species that are bringing fire into areas that have not historically burned. And, agaves are succulent plants. They're not adapted to fire, so they can't regenerate. So I think, with the university, we have a lot of opportunities to bring in technologies. We have remote sensing and geospatial labs that we'd love to partner with to be able to just really expand our ability to get out there on the ground, both, boots on the ground, but I think, other technologies would be wonderful.
Great. One more very quick question, if one judge has one more.
I have one. So in addition to the certification, is there a need for another type of policy change, maybe at the state level, or even, I don't know, even more like by national level?
In the U.S.-Mexico borderlands, always there's need for a lot of policy change. What's really nice about this certification is that the Consejo is a state entity, which is really cool. And for us, one of the challenges with making sure that this all goes well and that we put forth a sustainable certification that works is making sure that it works really well for preserving and protecting the agaves, for allowing nectar availability on the landscape for bats, but also that it's adoptable by producers. Once over the next couple of years, as we get these meetings, as we get these ideas down, that's going to be a challenge, but it's one that we're really excited about because we want to make something that works, and we think we're the ones to help facilitate this and make this happen. But yeah, there's a need for, a lot of policy change in the Borderlands.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, thank you so much to the Borderlands Restoration team.